You are now listening to the fastest show on iSports Radio. My name is Daryl Kinsey Jr. Welcoming you, taking a lap of the extra mile for today, November the 11th, 2021. And ladies and gentlemen, it is the end of an era in NASCAR, IndyCar, and Formula One. Some of those for new cars, new regulations. Others about to see a new champion. But to help me talk about that, of course, first I have to welcome in my co-host, Michael Ward. Michael, how you doing?
I'm doing really good. Slightly disappointed about how the race went, but, you know, it is what it is.
You, every Lewis Hamilton fan, and about every Mercedes supporter feels about that same way about the Mexican Grand Prix. And there's a lot of Toyota fans that are upset about what happened in Phoenix as well. We're going to get into that. No Christopher Lehman this evening. He is on baby duty, but we will hear from him probably in the chat room. But we're going to go ahead and get started. And if you're listening on Spreaker, make sure to get your questions into the chat as we have a guest today. This one was kind of a spontaneous ask, but if you know who I'm about to introduce, you'll know that I've been on this. Actually, I'm just going to introduce him. Daniel McFadin of Frontstretch is our special guest this evening. I've been on Dropping the Hammer with him a couple of times this year and last year as well. So I thought
three times.
Yeah. So I've been on his podcast 3 times now. So I thought I would extend the favor and bring him over here as well. He's going to help us break down everything that went down at Phoenix. So Daniel, first, welcome back from Phoenix and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Daryl. It's nice to be here. First time caller. I will admit I've never listened.
Understandable.
Hey, that's fine. So let's go ahead and get into first. You went to Phoenix weekends. Let's talk about it. How was your trip down there? As it said, as we were talking here before the beginning, it was actually your first time to Arizona. How did it feel out there?
Hot. It was hot and bright. It was cool in the mornings, hot in the afternoons, and that's about what I expected. But it was beautiful area. But spent most of our time at the racetrack. We went to a Suns game Thursday night. That was my first NBA game since like 2014. So an eventful weekend with lots of great racing, lots of great stories to write. So I'm glad to dig into it with you guys.
And we'll talk about all 3 series championships. We'll start on Friday. And the Truck Series Championship, a lot of people were pulling for John Hunter Nemechek. And unfortunately for that race, that just felt like the negatives of this format. Because, yes, there are positives and negatives to every championship format. The big negative of this one bit him early. Because he had that early tire issue and just spent the rest of the race trying to get caught back up. Now, he was in striking range late, but it just felt like he was a non-factor for the rest of the race after that.
Yeah, when you cut your tire down on like lap 2, like lap 1 or lap 2 or whatever it was, yeah, he was just never able to get back at the front. So it came down between Ben Rhodes, Zane Smith, and Matt Crafton, but Crafton was never a factor, so it was Zane Smith and Ben Rhodes. And I'll be honest, I didn't get to pay attention to basically the first 2 stages because I was busy writing a story about Daniel Hemrick and the dead deer that almost impacted his championship. But yeah, I got to pay attention to parts of the end, and it looked like Zane Smith was about to run away with it, and then all of a sudden Ben Rhodes just zoomed up on him and then went past him like it was nothing, and then just ran away with it himself. And then we got treated to the best post-race press conference I've ever witnessed.
Folks, that kind of leads into my next question. But, folks, please do yourself a favor. Michael, have you seen that press conference?
No, I have not. What happened?
Okay, you owe yourself to look up this. Alan Cavanna posted the video on Facebook. I think NASCAR also posted it on Twitter. Rhodes.
It's on NASCAR's official page on YouTube. All 19 minutes of it. Cavanna posted like a 2-minute jump cut of the best parts. but all 19 minutes and all of its glory is on YouTube, courtesy of NASCAR.
I have not seen the whole thing yet, but this guy was toasted and gave the best. I think this was even better than when Keselowski won his championship, and he's on ESPN with the giant Miller Lite cup, which was absolutely hilarious at that point.
Oh, he did that again.
I saw that. That was cool for his last hurrah with Penske, but Ben Rhodes kind of became my favorite Truck Series driver off of that press conference, and I'm pretty sure he remembers zero of it because he was gone.
He woke up the next morning. Wait, I won the championship?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 19 minutes of having fueled by 4 Bud Lights and a decent amount of champagne.
Man, they call it Bud Light, but it wasn't light that night.
Well, you gotta remember, he had just spent like two hours and change in a hot stock car vehicle, so he's dehydrated on some level already.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, Rhodes trumped Keselowski within 2 minutes of his press conference, but Keselowski gets bonus points because I went back and rewatched that night just to compare them. Ben Rhodes did not invoke the name Winston Churchill. Brad Keselowski did. So, he quoted Winston Churchill, so that he gets bonus points for that.
Yep. Some of the highlights were imitating gear shift noises,
Yes.
defending the dental hygiene of Kentuckians.
Yes.
Using the word libations in a sentence in a NASCAR press conference, which I'm pretty sure is the first time I've ever heard that word used at a NASCAR press conference.
Pronouncing it right.
It was so good.
Don't forget his rendition of Welcome to the Jungle. So.
Yes. There's too much to name. Go watch this press conference. Ben Rhodes is probably just sobering up now, but he really enjoyed his championship celebration. And then we get to Saturday, and Daniel freaking Hemrick finally wins a race in a NASCAR Touring Series. By the way, also wins the championship as well.
I thought that was insane because every time I tune into like Xfinity highlights, I see that, he's running well. He's up there fighting for the lead. He must have won a couple races, right? Nope, that was his first win. I was like, huh? This
is how for those of you who listen to us don't watch a lot of NASCAR. This is how Daniel Hemrick's races usually go. He runs well for the first half. By stage 2, he'll get the lead. 30 to 20 laps left in the race, about 20 to 30 to go. Someone spins. They come to pit road. Someone takes 2 tires, or he stays out. Most of the field comes to pit, or like that one guy who hasn't done anything all day gets superpowers and chases up and passes him. Hemrick has lost Xfinity in a truck race about any way you can. We're not going to talk about his Cup stint because it was 1 year at RCR and he never really got a chance.
But he still won Rookie of the Year that year. So.
Yeah, he did at least win Rookie of the Year. But he never had an opportunity to win a race.
Yeah.
And it felt like against Austin Cindric on that last lap, he's decided this is not happening again.
Yeah, Cindric was running away with it. It was going to be his. And then Allmendinger spins because of a loose right rear wheel. So this was like the first time all year where something bad happened to someone else, finally.
Yes.
At the end. Everything went Hemrick's way at the best possible time. And I was on pit road, standing next to the 18 pit box on that final lap. I saw them on the video board going down the backstretch. I didn't think Hemrick was going to get there. And then they dove into turn 3, and I lost them. And the next thing I know is they're flashing into view, and Hemrick's, just barely ahead of Cindric, and he crosses the finish line. first, and the pit box explodes. So Hemrick had been very calm about it just all weekend, even with the whole thing with the dead deer. I had talked to him, Saturday, not Saturday, Friday about that, and he was calm. He said, like, I've been waiting for this moment my entire life. So like in that moment, like he thought this was going to be it. This was going to be the moment. And then he talked about it Saturday after the race, that like he'd had a dream at some point in the last 2 months or something that put him really at ease about it. He really didn't go into detail about what the dream was. But apparently a dream he had a while back convinced him this was going to be it. And thanks to an H.A. Allmendinger caution, it did turn out to be that way.
Yeah, and let's rewind, because this almost didn't happen. His hauler got damaged on the way to Texas because of a dead... What happened with the deer? Did they hit it, or...
They ran out. Yeah, they ran over a deer carcass, and it cut a line or something. And so the hauler was stranded there in Abilene, Texas. And so the team had to go to a friend of a friend of a friend who turned out to be, I think, like a dirt racer who was in the vicinity going to pick up a car, but then he detoured and came and got Hemrick's car, put it in this trailer. It was just a plain white trailer, and then booked it. And he got to the track about 30 minutes before practice starts. And Hemrick gets to pull out on track, which was hilarious because I was in the media center when it was happening, and you could hear the guy on the PA announcer going, "Well, it doesn't look like Hemrick's going to be able to make practice," as Hemrick is pulling out onto the track. But that was funny. But no, he pulled out, and he was third fastest in practice with minimal time to work on the car there at the track.
Well, you probably got time, once you relax and the car's actually there. I guess it just feels like, okay, back to business, disaster averted. But at that time, he's got to be thinking, it just can't go like this, right? Like, my championship fight is going to end with my car not even getting here for practice, just jumping into it maybe for qualifying. But I think after all that, it was like, okay, if a dead deer is not going to stop me, nobody on this track is.
No, I asked him, like, did this feel like the racing gods throwing just one last obstacle in your way after everything else that's happened this year? And he's like, nah, I don't think about it that way. He's like, he wasn't concerned about it. He said he wasn't concerned because you can't control what you can't control, and you can't control when your hauler is going to get there.
Yeah.
So he said he was at ease. So I'll take his word for it and his demeanor. So
on the other side, in Xfinity, Noah Gragson had what I would like to call a boom or bust year, because there were some times where he looked phenomenal, and then there was just other times where the racing gods just took a you-know-what on him. This championship fight, he ended up hitting the wall near the end of the race, ended up becoming a non-factor. How do you look at Gregson's season, and what do you think are his chances going into what's going to be a really open Xfinity series in 2022?
I think you described it accurately. It was boom or bust. Like, he went over a full year without winning a race. Mm-hmm. And then he signed his new contract for next year, and then reeled off wins at Darlington and Richmond, right? Were those the two races he won at first? Yeah. And then he got another one. I can't remember where it was. Martinsville. So he has potential, but he's just not very good at being consistent with it. It was like that in the Truck Series. He went a full year in Xfinity without winning. Then he wins at Daytona, and then wins at Bristol last year, and then doesn't win again until late this year. But he still managed to get to the championship 4, and that's really all that matters. But yeah, he's coming back next year. Hemrick's coming back. Allmendinger's coming back. 3 of the 4 championship 4 drivers in Xfinity are back. With Cindric, the one guy who's going off to hopefully better pastures or whatever. But he has the opportunity to be the top guy. but he has to put more consistent races together, and we just haven't seen that from him so far in his career overall.
He's got to find some consistency, and we may get into this later. He's got to find a way to make some better decisions off the track. 'Cause that's going to be his one downfall. We've talked about that at length on this program, but we'll save that for when we get to Cup. But Austin Cindric on the other side was strong in Xfinity, just couldn't find that one extra, or really just couldn't find the luck to win the championship there. Or no, he did win the championship last year. Couldn't make it a 2 for 2. But Cindric now moves to Penske, sorry. How do we judge how he's going to do with this brand new car? And I guess it's hard really to judge how anyone's really going to be with the next gen car at this point.
Oh yeah, like you can't really have any assumptions about anything. It's a blank sheet of paper for everybody. The past stats really aren't anything you can lean on. And we're getting our first oval test, multi-car test here next week at Charlotte. So that will be the first time where you can like really see how things could potentially pan out. But Cindric, like I don't think he did, of all the Cup races he did this year, I don't think any of them were ovals outside the 500. I'm remembering that right.
I think he also ran Talladega, but that's also a plate track.
I think he did Richmond. He might have done Richmond. But
I seem to remember. I think he got into it with somebody.
I think it was Newman.
Yep, that sounds about right.
So, yeah, it's like he's a talented driver. He's proven that after he had a rough start at it in NASCAR, being that guy who couldn't win. Oh well, then he can't win on an oval, and then he just reeled off a bunch of wins last year. But his last half of 2021 was kind of like a Hemrick season. He's got that speed. He's running up front, but he just couldn't seal the deal there for about the last, I don't know what, dozen races or so.
Yep. And he had a consistent year. So I'm not going to say, he had a bad season. He just couldn't find that extra oomph to lock up the championship. But he now heads on to the Cup Series. And unfortunately, before we get to how that championship ended, of course, we have to address the controversy that really just happened. It was a rough 24 hours because Steve Phelps, doing his end of the year press conference, thankfully, I might add, disavows the "Let's Go Brandon" chant that has been going on, and I don't need to explain what it is. We all know what it is. I know what it is. You know what it is. We all know what it is. 24.
And it was everywhere, man. It was everywhere last weekend.
Sadly, I'm not surprised.
It was. I'm pretty sure I saw a baby in a onesie with it on it.
Oh my goodness.
So I saw like 8-year-old kids walking around with it on their shirts and their hats. It was disturbing.
Yeah. So 24 hours later, we're getting ready for Cup qualifying, and a certain driver, Matt Benedetto, has some guy with him. I don't know who this person was. Wearing the "Let's Go Brandon" chat. DiBenedetto's in videos saying the phrase. NASCAR was not happy. A lot of people were not happy. To the point that Jenna Fryer reported that DiBenedetto almost didn't start the Cup Series finale on Sunday.
Yeah.
He did go on to make what we will charitably refer to as a apology video, but
is it really an apology if you don't mention what you're apologizing for?
Yeah, not really, no. Guys, we're not even going to get into the politics of it. The phrase, it's ruining a driver's career, and it's not even his fault. There was an article that came out, a couple of weeks ago about it. Brandon Brown, has issues finding sponsors or people to work with them because of what that phrase has become. And then you have a Cup Series driver who's trying to find a ride, by the way, putting this out there. And we know with Cup, presentation is everything. Sponsors do not want to be connected to the MAGA mess. And he just steps his foot right into it a week after he said he didn't want to be censored by by whoever he races for. Well, he's not going to have to worry about it because I don't see where he gets a Cup ride after this going into next year.
Well, there's an open ride now at Front Row Motorsports, so. But I can't. I don't see. To take my opinion with a grain of salt, I don't see it happening. I don't see him in anything resembling a competitive ride in Cup next year.
No. I mean, he hasn't. There's a level of wins to BS that you can get away with, I think. Jimmy Johnson wouldn't do something like this, but God forbid if he was running and did something, we would all be mad, but I think we'd get over it. But DiBenedetto, all the talk about him was, well, if he gets into a good car, he gets to a good car, he gets to a good car. He was in the best car of his career with Wood Brothers and didn't do much. And then he pulls this. NASCAR is struggling. And Daniel, we've talked about this several times on your show. They are struggling with their image. And they do not need more of this. The conservative rhetoric, and I get it, the sport started in the South. We know the demographics. But NASCAR is trying to get away from that because at the end of the day, that costs them sponsors and it costs them people watching. And things like what's going on with DiBenedetto, the weird group of fans that are trying to champion Kyle Larson winning a championship as a slight against Bubba Wallace for some reason. Mm-hmm. All of that does not help that image. And you've got to wonder if, and we'll never know this, if a directive comes down from beyond high of NASCAR just going, don't bring this guy back.
Yeah, I mean, it's not worth the trouble. I mean, it's we've talked about Noah Gragson. Yesterday, he commented on the DiBenedetto apology video on Instagram, and I made note of it on Twitter, saying he was the second driver to publicly use that slogan after the president of NASCAR condemned it and said they were not happy about being associated with it.
Yep.
He then deleted it. So they need to try to choke that off, keep air from getting to it as much as they can. And I think hopefully drivers have gotten the hint. Don't use that phrase.
Yeah. We hope they've gotten the message.
Yeah.
So it's something that hopefully gets dealt with going forward. Michael, I don't know if you saw it. You got any thoughts on it?
To be honest with you, I don't really know what the Let's Go Brandon movement is in NASCAR. It sounds like I shouldn't know about it. So I'm just going to say he probably should have kept his mouth shut or, just play it cool and just not say anything he shouldn't say.
Yeah. Be grateful because unfortunately Daniel and I spend a lot of time on NASCAR Twitter and it's ugly. And it's only gotten uglier since the season ended.
Don't go on NASCAR Twitter. You'll rot your brain.
Yeah. So we'll get into the race.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I will say one of the weirdest things I saw during the weekend was on race day. I walked into the garage. This is around, I don't know, noon, 11:30, something like that. And there's the Benedetto standing outside his holler, waving a giant American flag, with that conservative provocateur, whatever his name was, just yelling, "Patriot, Patriot!" It was sad.
You know, like 2 years ago, I really liked the man. Now it's just like, what? Why? Why are you even here?
I don't get how we got here with him.
I don't either. I actually genuinely liked him. I actually really wanted him to be in a competitive car and to compete.
Well, it started with him inflating the hope that he could stay with the team in 2002 after the news that Brad was going to leave.
2002?
Yeah, for next year.
In 22.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You said 2002. He meant 2022.
Oh, okay. But yeah, he inflated the hope that he could possibly stay with the team after Penske announced that Keselowski was going to leave next year. When, like, this had been written in stone that, for one, like, they had announced last year that Austin Cindric was going to go to the 21, but that just got changed to the 2. Like, there was, and then you have that video that the Benedetto posted after the Harrison Burton news that he was going to the 21, where he starts like throwing the team under the bus and all that. That was part of it. And then you have his Sirius XM interview, which sort of got misconstrued, because one of the hosts of the show tweeted that he had said he didn't want to be censored. He never said the word censored, but he did said he had to tread carefully when talking about his beliefs, which is patriotism and religion, which I don't know why you need to tread lightly or whatever in the most conservative.
You're racing in NASCAR.
Yeah. But hey, he then, I think he kind of proved the point when he said the "Let's Go Brandon" thing. So, but you mentioned, Daryl, like, there's a certain number of wins to BS, and I think that was on display with the whole thing when DiBenedetto quote tweeted. He didn't quote tweet Kyle Busch, but he quote tweeted, like, I think Bob Pockrass's tweet about Kyle Busch having to go through sensitivity training.
Yes,
But think about it. The thing at the moment was Kyle Busch saying a slur about, I don't know how you describe the slur, but the R word. But the second DiBenedetto retweeted that thing and said what he said, everyone forgot about what Kyle Busch said. Like, that's not even an issue anymore. But Kyle Busch saying the R word. So that's how big the Benedetto stuff has come. Is that it overshadowed another driver's controversy.
And he didn't need to do that. Like, just mind your business. So, yeah. I don't know. We'll see where DiBenedetto ends up, if anywhere, next season. But we go into the race, and it was a JGR versus Hamilton. Sorry, JGR Hendrick tag team match. And at the end, it looked like JGR had it. The both Hamlin and Truex, 2 long run cars. They were up front after a late restart. Larson had an issue on the pit stop. Car got tight. It looked like the guy that had dominated the 2021 championship wasn't going to get what was rightfully his, as some people would say. And then enter David Starr, blows up a brake rotor, and guys, that pit crew uncorks their best stop in the final stop of the 5 lug nut era.
Maybe it was Kyle Larson's that he was not going to win that race, And then, like you said, a tag team match. What's the wrestling equivalent of David Starr debris caution ruining someone's championship hopes and flipping it to someone else?
I mean, that's just distracting the ref for a chair shot. That's basically what it was.
Is the chair sponsored by Whataburger in the situation?
Yes. I'm now imagining a Whataburger colored folding chair in wrestling. I want this now. Someone mod this for WWE.
David Starr with the chair.
It's like David Starr's blowing his brakes. Just reminds me of the whole "is that Glock" situation now.
Yep. That's basically what it was.
In Larson's pit crew, they come in from the audience and then jump from the top rope onto Truex.
Mm-hmm. So Truex, unfortunately, doesn't win the championship. Kyle Larson, I don't want to. He doesn't call it redemption, so I won't call it redemption. But a long, winding road for Larson ends the best way it could with a championship, and you could hear the emotion when he came across the line. When he tried to do a burnout around the entire track, unfortunately failed. The flag they gave him did not last long, unfortunately. He ended up getting destroyed. But, guys, I at the start of this year, did not think Larson was going to win the I didn't even think he was going to make the playoffs. Obviously, I was wrong. But just talk about how this, just talk about your thoughts on Larson's season.
Well, you didn't think he would make the playoffs?
I did not think he was going to make the playoffs this year.
As a Hendrick, when was the last time a Hendrick driver didn't make the playoffs?
I think Jimmy missed. Didn't Jimmy miss his last
year?
year?
Good point. Okay, yeah, all right. But you're right. Yeah, but this is basically the Jimmy Johnson team too. So okay, all right. I could see maybe where you might have gone with that. But no, this was the best season someone's put together since Jimmy Johnson in 2007 when he won 10. So there was a sense of inevitability, I guess, to Larson. Oh, he's the guy who's going to win, even though Martin Truex Jr., all 4 of his wins this year had been on 750 tracks. Larson had 2 on ovals. So Truex had been my pick. And until 30 to go, it looked like that was going to be the case. So it's, yeah, I definitely wouldn't say this was a redemption or anything for Larson, because that would imply redemption for something on the track. And that was not the case with Larson. I didn't get to pay full attention to the TV broadcast, Daryl. So did at any point Sunday, did they explicitly say anything about why Larson missed last year?
They did mention he was suspended for the racial slur thing.
They did?
So
okay.
They did mention it. I went back to listen to Rick Allen's call at the end, and he said last year he was watching the race from North Carolina. Now he's a champion. So they didn't run away from it. I mean, they said, this guy got suspended for this thing. And even Larson, he mentioned it during his interview. He said he didn't think he'd ever be here and be back here. And he said they would have been right if he didn't come back or wasn't allowed back. So, and that's the one thing I will say this whole time. Larson has been extremely apologetic about what happened.
Yeah. And this wasn't really noted on pretty much in the entire build up to that race. He's now the first non-white Cup driver to win a Cup championship.
Yep.
That's a big deal. So I tweeted about that after the race and it blew up. So I wish that had gotten at least touched on a little bit in the lead up to this week, but Larson himself doesn't like emphasizing that, and he's entitled to that. But that in the grand scheme of NASCAR history, that's a big deal.
Yeah, he's also the first drive to survive, or not drive to survive. That's the wrong thing.
Wrong city.
Drive for Diversity
Graduate.
driver to win the Cup championship. Like, that's a big deal for this program.
Yeah. And really the only two other drivers in Cup who are in anything resembling a position to follow up are Bubba Wallace and Daniel Suarez.
And we'll see what happens with them next year when we get into the new car. But, for Chase Elliott, disappointment, doesn't get to defend the championship, but he'll have another chance at this. Martin Truex Jr., that clock is running out, unfortunately, for him getting into his 40s. We know that cliff is coming, and it is not subtle in this sport. It is abrupt when your skills fall off the cliff. And one Dennis Hamlin. Is he ever going to win this championship?
I would want him to, but at the same time, it looks like it's not going to happen.
I mean, last year was his year, man. He won, 8 times?
Yep.
And couldn't do it, and then only wins twice this year, but has an incredibly consistent year. It was him and Larson. But he never really had... He had long run speed, but he never led a lap, as far as I know.
No.
So he finished third, right? It was.
Yeah, he was third.
Larson, Truex, yeah.
Yeah. So the championship guys finished in the order that I think's representative of the year, sort of. With Larson, 10 wins, best driver of the year. Truex, best driver on 750 tracks, win-wise. And then you have Hamlin, 2 wins on ovals, and then Elliott, who had 2 wins, but none on ovals. So I think their finishing order was pretty what I would have ranked them before going into that race.
Feels about right. And I just don't know how many more chances Denny Hamlin's going to have at the championship. I mean, he's lost them about every way that you could. I think one of his best chances was when we were still racing at Homestead at the championship, and they put too much tape on the grill on the last pit stop, and he was rolling away with the win. We know how the long green flag runs usually come to end the race at Homestead. He was going to win that championship if they just get the tape right. And ever since then, it just feels like inevitability-wise, he might end up being this generation's version of Mark Martin, where he was always running up there and just could never close the deal.
Yeah, I'd hate for that to happen to him, though, because he's just so quick and just so consistent.
Yeah.
Hey, there is something to having the title of best driver to not win a title. There's a compliment in there. So
yeah, I'd rather be known as a good driver to win a championship than a good driver to win a lot but no championship.
He also has 3 Daytona 500 wins. So.
Yeah, it still had the championship to go with it, or I'd like it.
Yeah.
So we will see what happens next year, and there's a lot of unknown going into this next season. There's a new car, there's a new schedule, new way of doing pit stops, possibly a new manufacturer in the next couple of years. We don't know. Really, possibly new engines in 2023. There is a lot of new that is coming. And the question is, how does that shake up the performance table? If it's anything like IndyCar, I really think you're going to see some teams that used to run in the back that are going to have more good days than bad. You're going to see a lot of teams that were in the top 15 competing for top 10s and wins. It's going to be a convoluted 2022 season, and it's all going to get started based on how they can get these cars to work on ovals. Now, we've heard there's an issue with the steering. They go back for a oval test at Charlotte soon. I think next week.
Yeah,
next week. There's a lot to shake down and not a lot of time before we're pulling into the LA Coliseum to race the Clash. So what are you guys looking forward to the most about the 2022 season?
Well, as far as the next gen car, like I'm writing a series at speedsport.com about the transition to that car and its impact on teams. The latest entry was just published today. But I've done stories on JTG Daugherty Racing and BJ McLeod's Live Fast Motorsports. Brad Daugherty thinks it's the argument that it's going to get competition closer together is slightly overstated, because he says, rich teams are still going to be rich. They're still going to have more resources than teams like us. So you're not going to see like a mid to back tier team just all of a sudden start racing in the top 5 consistently. They might be closer in speed, but they're not. They still gotta work for it. BJ McLeod said like their hope is for that car, instead of finishing 10 laps down in 30th, they'll like cut the number of laps down in half. So now instead of the 10 laps down, they'll be 30th, 5 laps down. Stuff like that. But I'm interested to see what the car does. Like I think that Charlotte test is very important to seeing what that car can do in traffic, passing wise, because we've heard all of the positive buzz about, oh, this car is going to be great on road courses. This car's made for them. But we still need more data on what that will look like on an oval.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot to decide, and I think that's that's how I'm, the most excited about it. There's a lot of unknown, and there's a lot that I think is going to be good. I think they'll get these cars figured out. They will have practice next year in whatever form that'll be, so they will be able to get used to this steering, but I don't think the gloom and doom about using the 550 package again next year is warranted. They're going to have about half the downforce, they're thinking, going into the 1.5 miles. So I think those races are going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think. But I'm excited to start the season. Michael, are you?
I'm excited too. I think the excitement honestly just comes from the word new, guys. It's just a whole lot of new things happening next year. And it just brings about that whole level of excitement that you just can't shake off whenever you hear that word new.
There's also going to be the return of some old stuff. Like trucks are going to Indianapolis Raceway Park again. So that's cool. It'd be interesting to see that.
Yeah, definitely.
That's going to be really cool to see them back there. I think Xfinity is going with them, I believe.
No.
Oh.
Xfinity's going to Portland.
Yes, that's going to be interesting.
And Mid-Ohio.
Yep.
Wait, no, the trucks are going to Mid-Ohio. That's right. Trucks are going to Mid-Ohio. Xfinity's going to Portland.
Yeah, which it should be switched, to be honest. Xfinity should be going back to Mid-Ohio, and the trucks should be going back to Portland, just like they did in the 90s. But we'll see how it goes. But Daniel, it's been awesome talking the NASCAR season with you. We're definitely going to do this again sometime next year on. Well,
you're coming on my show at some point soon, because we're wanting to have an end of the year extravaganza. Mm-hmm. Have all of our best friends that we made this year on the show, like all at once.
Well, let me know. I will definitely be there. Where can they hear your show, and where can they see the stuff you write?
You can read all my stuff at frontstretch.com or speedsport.com. Like I said, I mentioned that I have that series. You can find my podcast, Dropping the Hammer with Daniel McFadin, on all the major podcasting platforms. And you can also subscribe to us on YouTube at youtube.com/Daniel McFadin. And I think that's it. It's not NASCAR related, but I also have a movie podcast called Catching Up with Aaron and Daniel that launched recently. I don't know if you've listened to it, Daryl. You said you were going to.
Yeah, I've been so busy I haven't had a chance to yet, but I definitely will take a listen to it.
Well, the premise is that Aaron's a friend from high school who I lost contact with back in 2011, and we did not see each other for 10 years. But we reconnected this summer, and now we're going through all the movies that we missed from 2011 forward. So yeah, that's 3 episodes strong so far.
Nice. So definitely take a listen to that as well. And listeners, you do as well. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on. I will definitely be there for that extravaganza. And take it easy and enjoy the off season.
All right, man. Thank you, Daryl. And it was nice meeting your voice, Michael.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. You have a good one yourself, sir.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Have a good one.
So we are going to take a break. Before then, of course, going to thank our sponsors, Southern California Warriors Semi-Pro Football Team. Unfortunately, the road to a championship ended in defeat as they dropped their playoff game against the Riverside Disciples, 14-0. Best of luck to the Disciples in the championship, and best of luck to the Warriors next season. And folks, World of Semi-Pro Sports is unlike any other sports organizations. Players pay to play in hopes of so many different outcomes, whether it's playing to get filmed to try out for professional teams, big-time colleges, or just playing to stay in shape. No matter what, all semi-pro players have one thing in common, and that's playing for the love of the game. The SoCal Warriors have been on a quest to earn titles and give players second chances since 2017. Whether you're in Southern California or anywhere else in the world, give semi-pro sports a chance. If you love your sport, you may get the second chance you've been waiting for as an athlete. Check them out on social media at SoCal Warriors, Southern California _Warriors on Instagram, and Southern California Warriors on Facebook. We're right back after this with some conversation on Formula One and why the championship may be swinging permanently into the favor of Red Bull. We'll be right back here in the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of thunderous spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with lists of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Businesses, are you looking to background check a new hire on? Let Kit Freeman take care of that for you. Kit founded and has managed Background Check International since 1994, and he's here to help you with the screening process. Contact Kit and let him help make the hiring process that much easier. This business is used for professional background checks and not for the use of any crimes such as identity theft or any other illegal activity. Check him out on social media at bcint.com and Background Check International-BCI. We're back here in the Extra Mile on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Daryl and Michael are here with you. Chris is on baby duty, but we will talk to him next week. Or actually in a couple of weeks because we're off this week. Or we're off after this week. We'll get to that at the end. But it's time to talk Formula One Mexican Grand Prix. Michael, this was really a race that was won we like to make this joke, but it definitely was. Turn 1, lap 1. Max Verstappen started third, skies around the other drivers, ends up getting first, goes on to win the race.
Yeah, like I was telling you during the break there, Daryl, I don't know how you make Lewis Hamilton look like a GP2 driver, but he definitely did there. That was a masterful overtake, and I've always not really on the Max Verstappen bandwagon for a very long time here on the extra mile. But I think that race there showed me why this man is definitely why people think, yeah, he's it.
Yes.
And that overtake was, I haven't seen an overtake that good on the start in quite a long time. So
I haven't either. That was a huge run.
Yeah. You just parked it around the outside and never looked back.
Yeah. So we saw the Mercedes run away, and Sergio Perez ends up finishing third. I think his dad's reaction and celebration was absolutely adorable. I'm happy for him there. But as we look at the rest of the races, this was the best shot, I think, for Mercedes to reassert themselves in the championship. And they really didn't. It really feels like we're heading to a Max Verstappen coronation to end this this generation of Formula One car.
I can't really see a better way to end it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, it just makes everything so important next year just to have Max Verstappen win, because you end the era of Mercedes dominance and issue in a new era of racing, and now everyone's just like, I don't know what the heck is going to happen next year.
And not to mention, we're going into 2022 in the new cars, but there is a rumor that Hamilton may have to change engines at Brazil. We know that track is tough to overtake. We know it's a good track for Red Bull. If Hamilton has to take an engine there, that's got to be game, set, match for the championship, right?
Yeah, that's GG's. I think it's, honestly, Daryl, I thought it was GG's at Mexico, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was game, set, and match in Mexico.
I also thought that the Mexican Grand Prix, and I really thought, at the end of that race, he goes around, just steals the lead from them both, and there's been conversation about whether or not Bottas, should have got up there and blocked. I don't think Bottas could have done anything about it. He would have just went through the middle and made that move. We know Verstappen is such an aggressive starter. It's tough, and I don't see a way out for Mercedes to really get back unless they go on an epic run over the next 4 races.
I don't either, and it's just looking like I said, this race really was game, set, and match, because a lot of these other tracks that are coming up, they're not really overtaking tracks.
No.
I mean, Brazil used to be like an overtaking track, but it's not no more.
It's not anymore, and we have no idea how Qatar is going to race.
Yeah. And
Saudi Arabia just looks like,
it's not
if that track even gets finished, that just looks like Monaco in the desert. So if you're Red Bull fans, you're really happy. If you're Mercedes fans, you are not. But we'll see how it goes. We have a few more races for nearest the win to decide. Unfortunately, my championship fight is over. It is now between Christopher Lehman and Matt White to decide who's going to win this championship. Chris only needs 1 point to win it. It's the Brazilian Grand Prix. I think I'm going to go Lewis Hamilton, even against my better judgment, to win this week. Michael, who do you have?
I'm so far out of the championship, I don't even care anymore. Esteban Ocon.
I mean, when you're out of it, you might as well just throw random stuff at the wall.
Yeah. You wouldn't have liked my first pick.
Yep.
You would not have. Trust me.
Who's it going to be?
Mazepin.
Oh, gosh. No. We don't mention that name on this show. By the way, he got in trouble again. So,
oh, God.
Just shows what type of sterling character he has. But that's it for this edition of the Extra Mile. We're going on a little bit of a hiatus here. Usually around this time, the Formula One Championship would be decided, so we would be saying goodbye to you all. But with the championship still a mathematical possibility, the show will continue. Unfortunately, or not unfortunately, but we've been going since January, and we could use a little bit of a break. Christopher Lehman, who just texted me, he's going to go with Perez this week to try and lock up that championship. But we will be back December 2nd to get you ready for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and more than likely wrap up the year, because I think by that time the championship will be over. And then we will see you guys again in January. We will start with the Rolex 24 as tradition. Actually, when is the Clash next year?
Well,
right, so that's going to be February 6th, so we don't need to worry about that. So,
right.
We will see you guys again the week before the 2022 Rolex 24. And that race begins January 27th. So we will see you for the new season, January 20th, 2022, for another season of The Extra Mile. But until then, we've got some other great shows on IE Sports Radio. And if you want to hear them all, make sure you follow our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I am at DKJr12. Michael's at Michael_Wart25. Chris is at Fiji Sims. And remember, check out the website, iesportsradio.com. And coming soon is the Patreon. You'll be able to help support to keep this station running. That'll be on patreon.com/iesportsradio. But until then, we're going to wave the checkered flag on this episode of The Extra Mile. From Michael, I'm Daryl. This has been The Extra Mile. We will see you at the next green flag. Good night, everybody.